but hit the post from a metre out. 30 seconds later, he got a second chance and didn't repeat his error. Collingwood wasted time and opportunities, and Maloney kept the Bulldogs in touch, reading the play well. Wright was inspiring on the Woods forward line and helped the Pies lead by 6 goals at the long break. Alexander then took over in the third term, booting 3 goals and helping the Woods to a 10-goal lead. Brown was a match winner across the centre line, and David Cloak was the dominant big man, making few mistakes. As usual, Tony Shaw was a fine link man, and Gavin Krasiska was great in defence and in attack. In the final term, Collingwood relaxed. Royal and McGuinness were in everything, and Lee Matthews wouldn't have been impressed with the 28-point win, whereas it could have been a 10-goal victory. At Cardinia Park, Bruce Lindner relished his return to the side. Scott onto Ablett, and a goal avalanche had begun. Facing a 10-point deficit at quarter-time, Winmar bounced one through to give the Saints some hope, but Geelong had too many big guns in attack. Billy Brownless pulled down a screamer for another, but again at the other end, it was left to Winmar. An excellent snap, and still the Saints plugged away. Gary Ablett shot a hand pass to Bairstow for an amazing goal on the run that brought the house down, but more was to follow. A classic Ablett run out of the centre square, 2 bounces, and a 50-metre boomer saw the Cats move further ahead. And with Exel marking the rest, St Kilda was history.
First up, it's Sydney and North Melbourne. We talked about the wet in the north, and Sydney was certainly no exception.
No one came to meet him. Pretty good looking kick.
Good start by the Roos.
It's a goal.
But then Carroll did the same thing for the Sydney Swans.
Certainly covered that way. This is Carroll, the skipper. Oh, that's a beautiful goal on the run. And Carroll puts it through for the Swans first.
And Healy.
Murphy and Schwash
Buried down there.
mixed it in the slosh.
Schwash gives away 50. And he's a bit lucky. They'll contest about 40 metres out.
Good grab from Teal. And Arceri in a spot of bother.
As Teal fell to ground.
They need it right now.
One of the best marks of the night came from Mark Bayes in the square.
Bayes has taken a screamer on the line, and they were pegged back. Larkin takes the ball.
The Roos, however, did it well in the wet. Matthew Larkin onto McCarthy.
Some damage. Realise if the McCarthy a goal here would put them in front, and they are in front.
Let's now go to yesterday's action out to Princes Park, and the Lions look pretty good early.
That's a good looking kick. It's a goal.
Brereton now in the goal square.
Dermot Brereton has said he is not available for the state game, and he was pretty frustrated yesterday.
As Stevens has beat him pointless.
Couple of big grabs. Firstly, Lyon.
He's got that.
Puts it towards half forward. Caton.
And a good one by Kevin Caton.
He charged at that ball.
Paul.
But when the Hawks got going, they really got going.
Springs into goal, shoots and puts it through.
One from Kennedy.
After being dropped 4 weeks ago, into the square. A chance for Kennedy if he can pick it up. They get the hand pass back.
And
Waiting is
here's
done.
another one.
Should have given it to him, but it doesn't matter. It's a goal. He's second. For his 10th kick.
Couple in close now.
Brereton and Morrissey in
And
the goal square. That's
both from Whitman.
Through. It's a goal. Whitman.
Here's the second one.
Hands to it. And that's a goal to Whitman. His second for the quarter.
Ifia Domenico comes over the top. It falls to Kennedy. Not a good hand pass. Matera.
Once the Hawks started running,
Anderson.
they were very hard
Kennedy
to stop. Here's Loveridge.
Loveridge running through the middle.
Going down towards full forward, and Jason Dunstall.
Dunstall. Oh, what a mark.
For goal number 8. And he gets it right on the siren.
Now to the action between Collingwood and Footscray. Some good marking power from Wright to Mullane and also Jamie Turner. When it came to goals, a good one from Alexander. And the Magpies teamwork. Mullane into Cloak, onto Shaw, who finds the running Krasiska inside 50. At Cardinia Park, the Cats ran riot. Ablett and Bairstow. In the square, Mark Yates plays on and goals. Let's have a look at Ablett on the run. One bounce, then another. And from 50 metres on the run, a great goal. To the MCG now, and there were some 35,200 people there yesterday to see Nayley in pretty good form for the Blues.
Jim Steins hooks one out in front of Simon Eishold. He gets clear over the top to Spalding. Rhys Jones
didn't endear himself to the Melbourne fans on that occasion.
He's kicked it. Curtis Healy.
Sean White, a good snap. He kicked 3 goals in the first quarter. And that's where the Demons set up their win.
Was Robertson. O'Sullivan, a weak crunch by Dersma. A little high, play on.
And just seconds later, it was all in.
Take this game by the scruff of the neck, otherwise it's going to explode in a minute. There are players now running from everywhere. There's probably 3 or 4 brawls. Players are running from all over the ground.
In fact, every player on the ground came over and was involved. There was not one report.
Oh, that's
Alvin and Healy clash.
Because the umpires have got to do something about that. It almost turns.
But the Demons got away.
Tingay receives, and he will get Melbourne well and truly out of trouble.
Eishold a chance here to go into centre half forward to find Graham Yates.
Half forward, Yates recovers beautifully. Inside
2 goals
50.
inside
Graham
50.
Shoots towards goal, and he's popped through another one. Now the D's are running hot.
In his long career, Danny Hughes has only kicked 14 goals. Up to yesterday, he'd kicked 1 for the year.
He's kicked it.
And that was his second.
Back onto the right foot. Herman kicks towards the forward line. Dennis takes the mark. And Lyons tackle a little high and a little late.
And Herman's been terrific today.
50 metres to Dennis. He goals.
Dennis kicks for goal and puts it through. Scores level.
But the Demons were able to kick back and go on and win the game. For Richmond and the West Coast Eagles. Another thriller.
Go for goal and kicks a beauty.
He and Michael Pickering will have a
now, what
terrific
is
duel on
Wilson saying to Langdon here? Have a look at this.
To mark that one. What was going on there?
He's giving him the Red Rooster walk.
Well, he wasn't sure what was happening around him.
And the Eagles play, finding space.
Plenty of heavy work.
Like Subiaco Oval and what they know. A solid Shepherd.
That was the end of Michael Pickering.
Down, laid out. And charged
another state squad member down.
And again, but Lewis
Lambert breaks away to Poole inside 50 and he goals.
Poole goals for the Tigers.
Guy McKenna's been moved to the forward line. Back it comes to
the Eagles
Waters
wouldn't lie down.
Waters on the left foot.
Turner and Waters combined.
Mark, still a chance for the Eagles though. They're
and
on the 50.
They combine again.
Waters off to Turner. A goal could win the game.
However, the Tigers scrape home in a great game. There's some great football played yesterday. If you haven't caught up with all the scores, let's check them now in our quarter-by-quarter segment. Firstly, that close one at VFL Park. Richmond 13-14-92. The West Coast Eagles 13-12-90. Melbourne and Carlton. Melbourne 12-14-86. Carlton 11-14-80. Collingwood 16-10-106. Footscray 11-12-78. Hawthorn 25-15, 165. Fitzroy 13-6-84. And Geelong 35-18, 228. St Kilda 16-13.
Plenty of time, he pops it out wide.
Still with North. This time up in Sydney.
Now he's in trouble.
And Mark Arceri.
Arceri pulls it back across his body. Great shepherding down there.
Outs.
This time Derek Kickett.
But not a well-directed kick. Mark should have been taken. Picked up by Kickett. Could be a costly miss by Willis. And that's a goal.
Matera.
To yesterday's action.
Second chance onto Osborne. First kick
Richard Osborne
today and bounces through
for Fitzroy.
Steers the ball to half forward.
For the West Coast Eagles, Scott Waters.
To Waters from 50 metres. Nobody back there. Great goal for the Eagles.
To the left.
Now to the MCG.
Curtis Healy.
Healy in trouble. Sean White gets the Demons out of it with a goal. So this also coming back into the side Darren Bennett, and you can see he's in the square there now, right on the edge. He kicks that ball, and a tremendous goal from Darren Bennett.
Butts, Bennett, Hughes.
Danny Hughes this time, plucking it out of the air, and he's jagged his 14th goal of his career. To Collingwood now, against Footscray, Colin Alexander. This time for the Dogs, Brian Royal. Gets out of trouble nicely. Kicks truly on the left foot. For St Kilda, down at Cardinia Park, Nicky Winmar. Now 3 from the Cats. First up, Andrew Buse. The state defender kicks truly. Gary Ablett. Number 1 from Gary Ablett. This is number 2. Out of the centre, and away he goes. A couple of bounces, and bang, from 50 metres, straight through the middle.
In that first quarter, and their handball was constructive, and they do run very, very well, Hawthorn. They run from deep in the back line, a la North Melbourne in the mid-70s, and their skill level is just so high that when they want to hit an opponent, they do it, they run, they keep the forward line open, and they just hit Dunstall, and he can lead with confidence into space.
How much emphasis, Don, should be placed on players' self-discipline? Bearing in mind that you're talking about players running out of the back line, how much importance is on discipline of those individuals who allow the player to run loose?
That's a good point, Ian, because I did look a couple of times, and Ross Lyon, for one, was caught. And McGrath was another when I think it was Ayres, he's a man who took it off when he was playing on. Yes, on occasions, yes, they were to blame, yes.
Don, you were just saying that Hawthorn's game is something like something in a bottle. Could you really...
No, I won't elaborate, Cal. I tried to look for a cliche and you guys wouldn't help, but it is like we say a bad smell in a bottle. If you just let them take the lid off it, they get out. And this is what they are, because they've got stars everywhere. And I went through the Hawthorn good players, and there really wasn't one that put in 4 good quarters of football. They can come in like Hall, for example. Never saw him the first half, and then all of a sudden he lets fly in the third quarter and blitzes him.
Don, can any team beat them? If they do, how would they do it?
Well, again, I linked them to North Melbourne when I was playing. You really have got to concentrate for the full 100 minutes of football, because I just said they'll come into the game, they'll come in and out of the game, and when they do come in, they're just so constructive and they're just so deadly.
If everybody runs with them, they're
yes,
in trouble,
that's it.
Aren't they?
Exactly right. Now, there at one stage there was pressure put on, and it was that player there, Schwab, who really did have some pressure put on him in the back line, and he was a little bit at sea. His disposal wasn't as good. So that's a good point, Bob, if you really run with them.
Well, Bob, how are you going to do that?
We had 10 goals in front of them last week, weren't we?
Did you win?
No, but what he said, they lost concentration for about 10 minutes. If you can get 10 goals...
Where Carlton had to just play catch-up football from there on in. I mentioned about their character. They had some good players. Herman was a good player all day long. Kernahan struggled against Dersma. Dersma being injured, went off in the second term, didn't come back on the ground. And Gary Lyon, who kicked, I think, 4 behinds for the Demons from centre-half forward, went to half-back, and they worked very, very well, Melbourne's defence. I think statistically, they are one of the best defences in the competition. They restricted Carlton to only 11-14, and that's where Carlton's major problems are, the fact that they can't kick a high enough score.
Well, it was interesting, Sandy, to see the coach, John Northey, put all of his stars up on the forward line. I mean, White was up there, a former defender. Lyon, well, we know he can go both ends, but he was also up there, was Spalding and Bennett. And Bennett, in the finish, won the match because he took this huge mark, and that's one of the advantages of having a guy like Bennett there now as compared with last year, that he is at least a target they could have some sort of faith in, and he proved it with this one huge mark in the last bit. He didn't play that well, by the way, but it shows the value of a guy like that.
Can we ponder Carlton's future? Now, they've won 1 game. What is the remainder of the season going to be? Because they just can't make the 5.
I think they could make the 5, but they've got to get a few of these stars back. But their stars are
who are they, Ron?
dimming.
Who are these stars?
Well,
back?
I said they're dimming, you know.
Right.
So, but there's a lot of money running around that seconds there with Madden and Johnston and Buckley.
I think you're missing
so
the
on.
point. I really believe now that Carlton have to give some of these younger blokes. Their reserves have won 6 matches and lost 1, and you can't tell me that there aren't 2 or 3 young guys with a bit of potential.
You saw one yesterday, didn't you?
I've named a young bloke, and I asked last night. I went into the rooms and asked about him. Cicluna. Now he's about 6'2". He plays across the half-back line, and he wants the football. And
what did they say?
You talk about dimming stars. They can go back and go over what they've done for the last 10 years and bring the dimming stars back. And
this fellow here, Winmar, is an absolute delight to go and watch play football, and his cooperation together with Lockett is excellent. This is Nathan Burke going in, and Burke did well early, but unfortunately Winmar got hurt, or he seems to be carrying a bit of an injury. You can see here that St Kilda are playing very well early in the match. And Winmar going again, and I don't know whether Geelong perhaps was a little bit loose in that stage, but I think there were 12 goals scored in the first quarter, and in the second quarter there were another 12 goals scored. So it was a high-scoring game, and both sides doing the very pleasant things of football, let's put it that way.
Lindner, did he get an opportunity?
Well,
and how did he go?
There was a change in the game plan yesterday, obviously, from Malcolm Blight, who decided that the 15 or 16 or 20-minute mark of each quarter, that Burke, despite how well he was playing, would go off, that Stone would go into the ruck, that Brownless would go centre forward, that Ablett would move up one notch on the ground somewhere, and Lindner would get a run.
Where, in what position?
Well, he played half forward flank.
And how did he go?
He did a few nice things, but may not be sufficient to keep him in the team consistently. He may be used in that role, but it certainly was yesterday quite a change to see Burke, who was actually the driving force of the team in the first part of the quarter.
Bob, you said off air that Gary Ablett was the best champion and also the worst champion you'd ever seen.